Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to Crow Canyon Software's Fall Solution Showcase. In this webinar today, we will be going over our HR solutions for SharePoint and Office 365. We had two previous webinars this month. One was on October 23rd for IT solutions, and the other was just this past Tuesday on October 30th for the work order solutions. These two that we've already done have webinars available. Not webinars, recordings of the webinar available on the crowcanyon.com/webinars page. That's crowcanyon.com/webinars. And if you scroll on there to the Fall Solution Showcase, you'll see the recordings of the IT solutions and the work order solutions. And after this webinar today, we'll have the HR solutions one up there probably in either today or tomorrow, depending on what it takes to get there. So again, thank you for coming. And today is our third in this series of the Fall Solution Showcase. We will be covering HR solutions for the HR department using SharePoint and Office 365. Certainly a lot you can do with SharePoint and Office 365 to manage HR department and HR system and request. And the presentation will be done by James Restivo, and he is the VP of Operations, and he'll be going over the onboarding and HR request systems from there. Now, I want to give you a little background on Crow Canyon Software in case you're not familiar as we get going. Crow Canyon Software has been in business for 20 years now, and we have been developing applications on SharePoint and Office 365 ever since they came out. So SharePoint goes all the way back to pre-2007, so it's over 10 or 12 years now that we've been doing that. And we have a number of applications for business processes. We have, like we talked about, the IT solutions and the work order solutions. We have request management systems, purchasing, contract renewal, as well as IT help desk, customer support, asset management, facilities and work orders, and equipment tracking. So we cover a lot of ground on how to use SharePoint and Office 365 for business purposes. And what we have done is given the base SharePoint platform, whether it's on premises 2013, 2016, or 2019, or it's up in Office 365 on SharePoint Online, we've developed a layer on top. We call it the application service layer, and we call it the Nitro Studio. It's a set of apps and web parts that power up SharePoint into being able to provide these business services, such as the forms, workflows, reports, portals, and other things that James will show you today as part of the HR applications. And one area that's really interesting we're going into now is AI services, bots, and NLP, which is natural language processing, and things like that, that we can bring a bit of automation using big data and AI into these applications, into SharePoint and Office 365, so you can power up your service desk or your HR system with the bots. That's new, it's cutting edge, just coming out, but wanted to put that out there that we're moving forward in that direction. We also do custom projects, and one thing we emphasize why use Crow Canyon solutions on SharePoint Office 365, and what it does is it's leverage your existing environment of SharePoint. There's the idea of not having these siloed applications using different logins and going to different websites with different administration, and all is consolidated into SharePoint and Office 365, which simplifies things for users and for administrators. And I mentioned the AI services we're doing, but also the modern UI in Office 365, which will also be in SharePoint 2019, is a big jump forward in the presentation, the user engagement and empowerment layer with the modern UI. A lot of flexibility, a lot of capabilities in that. And we also, given that we have the Nitro Studio underlying these applications, they are very, very configurable. You can change a form easily, workflow, actions. James will show you some of that today. And we're always using the cutting edge technology and keeping up on the latest and greatest with SharePoint. We go to many of the SharePoint shows, community events. Just this past month, we had 4 events we went to in Denver, Redmond, out in California, and also in Boston. And we'll be going to Twin Cities, Minneapolis in November, and Chicago, the SP Fest in December, the Chicago SP Fest. In fact, we're having a raffle for the free pass for that right now, as a matter of fact. So there is a lot going on with us in the SharePoint community. Crow Canyon's very involved. coming out with these applications in the Nitro Studio, and I think you'll be really, really interested to see what we have in store. So with that, I'll let James get going and show you, one aspect of our solutions, which is the HR element, and hopefully you'll get in touch with us for demos or more information. James, why don't you take it from here and start the demo?
Sure, thanks, Scott. That's great. So yeah, as Scott was saying, we're going to be looking at some of the HR solutions we have, where we have a request management solution where you can manage incoming requests, incoming forms from your end users, and then also a piece of it where you can track onboarding, the onboarding process. So when an employee gets onboarded to your company, there's going to be a number of things that need to happen. I'll walk you through how Crocanyon helps make that streamlined and accountable for everyone who's involved in that process. But to start out at the initial part of it, I want to talk about our request management solution. And this is what we're looking at right now is our back-end site. So this is where your HR staff would come and see how many open requests there are, overdue requests, unassigned requests, things like that. But I also want to show you the portal, which is the end user portal for your community. And so this portal is really a departmental intranet where you can put any number of things on this page to give your users access to the information that they need. So at the, one element of it is that you can present different forms to your users. So you can do that through the links at the top of the page. You see there's a new request link and a few others for submitting requests. Users can also see their existing requests, ones that they've already submitted. They also have access to a knowledge base from this tool as well. But you also notice that there's these quick ticket links, quick request links that we call them, where this is a link to either the form itself, where the user can submit a new request, or it could be to other forms. So let me show you what that looks like from here. So the end user can come in, they can click leave request. I have, they want to submit a request for leave, whether it's FMLA or, a regular PTO, whatever the case might be. They can come in and they have a form that they can fill out. They just select the type of the category that is, it's a leave request. Based on that, they can select what type of leave, whether it's bereavement, jury duty, maternity. You can just have a generic FMLA leave in here as well. And they fill out some information. Now, this form can be changed and you can put a whole bunch of other information on here to capture. But this just gives you a quick intake form for these users. And kind of show you the different variations that you have. I also want to show you what we have with this direct deposit authorization form. So this is another iteration of the form, another way you can present the information or the fields to your end users. So you have this direct deposit authorization form where you're capturing the fields that you want to capture for those to process that direct deposit. Also within the form part of the tool, we have an ability for signatures, so they can put their signature on here, which could be done on a mobile interface or through the desktop interface, or we even have capabilities of them to import or add GIF images to the form as well. So really endless possibilities with how the form can be configured. I know there's all sorts of different forms when it comes to HR. So I just want to give you a quick overview, a quick flavor of what you can do with the forms in this portal interface. Like I said, once the form gets submitted, the user can come over to their list of requests that they've looked at, so that they can that they've submitted, so they can see what is ongoing, what's pending, who are we waiting for, is there status, what's the status on it, is it assigned or unassigned, and you can control what the end user sees here as far as that request is concerned. Jumping back to this portal real quick, I just want to show you a couple other elements of it. So these links here we've looked at so far as being links to forms that you've created within the tool, but these could also be links out to other pieces of information, other areas of your intranet. It could be links to anything. So I've embedded a link here goes out to University of Rhode Island. That's close to where I am now. So I just went ahead and linked to it. It's a public website. So you can do that within the tool to either external or internal sites. And then I will be touching on the onboarding request solution in just a little bit, but I want to show you that you can create a link within this site, which goes over to that onboarding request system where you can input that information that for who's being onboarded into your company. So I'm going to leave that for now. I'll get into this in more detail a little bit later in the webinar, but I just want to point out that you have a lot of flexibility with how you configure this portal and how you present it to the end users. Now, if you don't want to present a portal to your end users, that's fine. Our solution also can intake requests via email. You can also have your staff directly create the request from the internal interface. So there's a email sync tool where we can bring the emails into SharePoint and create those requests. But you could also come over here and create a new request directly. So what we're presenting here is another type of form, another iteration of that form designer tool that we have, where you can separate out the fields by tabs, and then you can capture the information you need. Again, it's all about what are you trying to capture? What information do you need to get the job done? Then in addition to that, on the backend side of things, we also have other metadata about that request. Who is it assigned to? What's the request status? Where did it come from? Are there any assets in the tool that this might be related to? Due date, which can be auto set based on service level agreements. And then you also have a work log where you can track all the work that's been done on this particular request throughout its life cycle. We also have a link over here to knowledge base articles. So right now we've linked a few existing knowledge base articles to this one, and what that does is it allows you to track how frequently knowledge base articles are being used and how useful they are over time. But you can also use this information to send that information directly to the end user, and I'll go over that in just a minute when talking about the tools that the HR staff has available to them to manage the ticket through the process. There's also some related items where we have this association between the request and other sub lists, which could be for time tracking. So you have a time tracking list here where you can, more so than the work log, you can track directly how long people have been working on this ticket or on this particular request, who did what to it. So it's similar to the work log in that sense, but it's a little more reportable. You can capture this information and have that calculated to see, okay, how long were these people working on these particular requests? And you can also do it by category where you can see, okay, these types of requests or payroll or benefit information requests take longer than other types of requests. Maybe that's by design, maybe there's a reason for that you want to get to the bottom of, but this gives you the tool to at least see that that's what's happening. And then associated tasks give you a way to, basically farm out some work that needs to be done to finish this request. So maybe in the payroll department needs to do one thing, but maybe the benefits department needs to do another. And you can farm out those tasks and assign them to your users. Now, just backing up for a second, I just want to reiterate that this is a SharePoint-based solution. So it is most likely connected to your existing Active Directory. So the users that you can pull in as far as the assignees, as far as the requesters, are going to be ones that you have in your internal database already. So this just integrates very seamlessly with your existing infrastructure of Active Directory and SharePoint and Office 365. So there isn't any need to add users to it. The only place you're going to be adding users is in the onboarding tool, and I'll show you that. And that's simply because they're not in your Active Directory yet. But ultimately, yeah, this is connected to your Active Directory. So any of those fields where it's a requester or assigned staff, that's coming from your internal information. Now, when the staff comes into the system, they can be given a link to the staff workspace. And the staff workspace allows them to really focus on what they need to work on, because this is going to look at requests that have been assigned to the user. So you have My Requests, which is ones that have been assigned specifically to the person who's logged in. So this is looking at the logged in user and filtering out just the tickets, just the request for that person. You can also see some metrics here, and I can talk about our reporting tool in just a little bit, but these are some different graphs that you can put on the tool to show, various metrics of how many requests they've closed in a given time period, how many they have open by category, and then if they have any other priorities. And that, going back to that associated tasks field I was talking about, this is where those tasks would appear. So if you're farming out those tasks from one request and have to have someone else take a look at it or do something, that person would see this in their staff workspace. So they know that they have a task that they need to complete. Also within the staff workspace, there's a part where they can see tasks that are currently unassigned, and they can go and pick those up. Now, within this tool, we have a lot of functionality built into the ticket form, the request form, where the user can self-assign the request if it's not already assigned. They could assign it to someone else if it's assigned to the wrong person. They could escalate it if it needs to be handled at a higher level, or someone else needs to take a look at it. Kind of the same idea, but maybe you have slightly different actions going on. And again, these are predefined actions that you can build within the Crow Canyon tool. And that's part of what we would do, is work with you to help build out these types of actions that you want to have happen when you're working through the ticket. Another piece of it is, if you need more information from the end user to process the request, you can go to this Crow Canyon email function, where you can come in and it has some predefined settings for who it's going to be sent to. You have control over that, of course. You can X out these folks and add in new ones if you wanted to. But then, most importantly, I think most appropriate for what most useful feature you're going to have is this mail template, where you can predefine some instructions, data from the ticket, from the request itself, to communicate to the end user. So you can have a number of different templates here for where they're, they have to reset their password, or maybe it's someone just asked a generic question: when is benefits enrollment open? How soon do I have to submit my benefits? What do I do if I had a child? What do I do if I got married? That could all be information you have predefined in these templates, that then you go and select that template and fire it off to that end user, and they've got the information they need. Now, of course, they could go look at the knowledge base, look at the internet, but as we all know, employees like to ask questions directly of people rather than go search the information out themselves. This gives you a way to help head that off at the pass and give them the information they need. And so you can also close the ticket once the request has been fulfilled, it's been completed, you can close it out. And throughout the whole process, there's notifications. So we just talked about that manual email notification, but throughout the process, when the request gets submitted, when the request is assigned, and when the request is closed, you have automatic notifications that go out from the system. You can manage what those templates look like. There's a whole administrative application administration. I'm just going to show it to you briefly. We're not going to get into it in too much detail on just this quick webinar, but I do want to show you that it is possible to manage these notifications. In addition, while we're here, I'll just point out the fact that you can also manage the categorization. So each of the requests that comes in can be categorized by category and/or issue type. And you can control and manage what those categories and issue types are from within this application administration area. There's also a Nitro Apps, Nitro Studio piece of it, which Scott mentioned at the beginning of the call. I'll get into that at the end of, if we have time, I'll get into some of those features at the end, where I show you that forms designer and some of those other things that we have. So that's the life cycle of the request. It comes in, it gets worked on, it gets closed, notification goes out. And then at the end of that cycle, you want to capture some reporting. So there's a few different ways you can do that. We have a report center tool where you can see some metrics about, this happens to be linking to an asset tool, but we can also look at open requests by category priority. So you can see that you hear the different types of requests that happen to be open and which priority they're open for. You can also look at staff load. So if you wanted to track how many tickets are being assigned or how many requests are being assigned to different users, you have this ability to see how much is being allocated to each one of your staff. And you can reassign as necessary. Then you can also look at the tasks that are closed by month. So you get metrics of, how soon are these tasks being closed, what's the performance of attending to these HR issues, these HR requests that are coming in. So that's the reporting aspect of it. Another great thing about SharePoint when it comes to reporting and getting information from the system is that you have these views of the information. So the view of that, all those requests can be controlled, filtered, sorted by you. So you can sort by category, you can sort by issue type, sort by request status, and then you can also create other views. So each one of these links over here on the left could be different views of the list of requests. So all open requests, my open requests would be ones that are assigned to myself. Closed requests would just be all the ones that have been closed and worked on and completed. It can also come in and see all the requests. A few other features you have over there, over here is for tasks. Again, you can look at tasks that are assigned to you, tasks that are overdue, open, etc. Let's go for that. There's also this assets piece, which I won't get into in detail today, but that can also be part of it, where you track assets that are allocated to your employees as well, which could be laptops, phones, could be computers, things like that. So that's a good high-level overview of what you can do with this request management HR request solution. If there's any questions or anything you want to dig into in more detail, I would certainly implore you to go ahead and set up a live demo where we can go over it in more detail and get those questions answered. We can also ask questions on the poll piece of it, but I wanted to just point those things out and mention that before I move over to the onboarding piece of it. So the onboarding part of the program is where you are taking individuals from the hiring process. So they've gone through the hiring process, you've sent them an offer letter. Now they're going to start at the company. And you're going to have a bunch of different tasks, a bunch of different things that are going to need to happen when that person comes on board. So that could be setting up a computer, could be setting up the desk, could be setting up a name tag, security access badge, things like that are going to need to be addressed, and someone's going to need to be responsible for doing those things. So this onboarding tool allows you to track all of that, and not only track it, but also create those things automatically. So we have this whole concept of a role-based access. And the people who are being hired into a particular position, typically sales manager, finance manager, VP of operations, for instance. And within that role, they're going to have particular systems they're going to need access to, and particular forms that they might need to fill out, and also particular things that they're going to need to do their job. Maybe some people get a laptop, others don't. Some people get a cell phone issued to them, others don't. Executive level might need a company car, for instance. So those things can all be handled by the role of the user. And that, again, we have this administrative area, which I'll go to maybe a little more detail here, because I think it really shows what you can do and how this can really help you with your onboarding process. So you have this administrative area where you can configure these roles. Now, not only do you configure the roles, but you're configuring the applications they're going to need access to through the applications link. You're going to be configuring the hardware that they're going to need access to. You're going to be configuring the physical access they might need, which could be a gym pass, for instance. And then you're going to take all that information and you're going to compile it into a role. So the roles are also based on departments. So you're going to have a list of departments as well, which I'll just point out real quick. You have these departments. Again, add as many or as you need into here. And then you associate that department with a role. And then what you've done is now when you've created this role, you've already associated all these applications, access, hardware to that role. So when the person's onboarded, it's automatically selected. So I'll show you what that looks like when I create a new request. So we have a new hire request that's going to come up here, where you're filling out some information of, it's already pre-populated as a new request. The effective date would be when is the person being onboarded. First name, last name, you'll have to manually enter because you don't have that information yet in the system as far as it being in Active Directory. You're going to select that department, which is then going to drive the selection of the role. So you select your department. Once you select your role, one thing I want to point out before I do that is they have certain things already selected. These are kind of global things, that applications or physical access that everyone's going to need. But ultimately, what's going to happen is when I select this person as a system administrator, now you've pre-selected all these different roles or different systems that the person's going to need access to. You do have control to come in here and select or deselect user, different applications or different things from here, so you can tailor it and kind of customize it to the particular person who's being onboarded. You can also create other ad hoc tasks as needed, but it gives you a way to kind of pre-select and predetermine what is going to be needed for that person coming into the role, so you don't have to figure out or track down from their manager what do they need access to. And again, the real benefit is that you're doing all this ahead of when the employee walks in the door for their first day. And the benefit there is that they've already got all the access they need. They can come in on day one, sit at their desk, and start working. I can't tell you how many times I've been onboarded into a company and come in on day one and had zero access to anything I needed access to. And people are like, oh yeah, you need to get access to that. Oh yeah, you need to get access to that other thing. This onboarding tool helps get rid of that whole process. And usually I would spend the first week or two just figuring out what I need access to and figuring out how to get access to it. This eliminates all that.
Yeah,
so
but that didn't happen at Crow Canyon when you joined Crow Canyon.
Crow Canyon is the exception to the rule for sure. But I did have a life in corporate America before this, and it was yeah, that was the case. But yeah, this eliminates all that. You can also save it as a draft, and then you can also send it for approval once it's done. So you can have an approval process on here. Generally, if the person's already decided to be onboarded, you might not need that, but there's some other, maybe secure roles or secure positions where that might be required to have another level of check to say, make sure that these are the right applications. These are the right pieces of hardware that this person should be accessing. So it kind of gives you another level of security check when bringing that person on board. Once that has been submitted, it's been approved, you'll see that we've got one of them here that's pending at approval. So it's going to hang there until that person who's assigned to it, which again, you determine that. Once that person's come in here and made their decision, which it looks like it's in my court, but anyway, get that approval, and then there's going to be other tasks that get created. So the approval task gets completed, and then there's Active Directory task. So the Active Directory task is really important because it means that the user is going to be added to the Active Directory, at which point they can be added to many other solutions that you have or other systems that you have in your environment. Independent of that, there's also the other tasks for finance, for physical access, for maybe some HR tasks, which could be various forms to fill out, various forms that they need to complete before they can start their work. So that would be all tracked through here. But I do want to emphasize that there's a lot of flexibility in how these what tasks get created and who they get assigned to. And then this gives you a way to see kind of a tracker of how long in the process it is. So you can see there's a few here that are pending at the Active Directory task, so we're just waiting for that to be completed, and then it'll carry on through the process. Once it's completed, you'll see that the green bar has been completely filled out, and now they're ready to start the job. And there's also within this, not just onboarding, but also change requests. So if you're moving from one position to another, your access is likely going to need to change. So we have a way to control that in here, where you create a new change request, you specify what the new role is, and the access gets updated automatically or correspondingly, I should say, through here. So if pick a particular employee and I pick their new role, it's going to show me what things have been assigned to them and which ones are going to be removed. So if I select myself, in this one, I'm going to be systems administrator now, and it's going to show me applications that have been added. Ones that these are new ones I'm going to need. These are ones that I'm going to have removed, and here's ones that are going to be retained. Again, there's going to be a task created for those applications that need to be removed, and that's really important in case someone's moving from one role to another. They really shouldn't have access to a system anymore. There could be good reason they're moving from one position to another. And then, same with physical access and hardware, et cetera. And then the end of the cycle is termination. Someone leaves the company, they retire, they get fired for cause, whatever the case might be. You need to eliminate the access and eliminate the things that that person has had access to. And when you go and create a departing staff request, that's what happens. So you're specifying the role that the user was in, and then you could have an approval on it or not. And it's going to take those applications and create tasks, the physical access or hardware. It's going to take all those things and create tasks to remove that access, so that when the employee's day to leave comes, all the access has been revoked and they can't do anything, especially if they're fired for cause. You want to make sure they're not going to be able to do anything that's going to harm the company. So you want to make sure all those tasks get created and that the people do what they need to do. Similar to the request system we were looking at earlier with the HR requests, notifications. There's emails, all sorts of ways you can notify people that, again, these tasks are being created, so they have to be notified, the task is created. You can have notifications go out when those tasks go unresolved or uncompleted for a certain period of time. The due date's coming up, the person's start date's coming up, and you want to make sure those tasks get done. You can have notifications go out. So that's part of the power of the Nitro piece of all these tools. Is you can create those notifications, you can create those actions, escalate things, you can create, and then the forms piece of it, you can create the different forms that you're seeing throughout the solution. So looks like we have a little bit of time here, and I don't know, certainly if there's any questions, I can answer them. I don't know if anyone's had any that you want to ask at this point. Scott, any questions that you want to bring out and highlight here?
Let's see. Did you show the admin dashboard?
Oh, great point. Let me show this admin dashboard. So the admin dashboard is a space. It just gives you an overall, it gives you an overall view of the possible. Of the system. So this is a list roll-up tool. You can use it in other applications of ours as well, but it takes all those different onboarding tasks and rolls them up into one view where you can see all the different onboarding tasks, all the different change request tasks, and all the different offboarding tasks in one space, so you can track all that. So this is really great for HR managers who can track where are we in the process of getting these people up and running with the company, and where are we lagging. You can see right now the Active Directory task is lagging, so maybe they're just not getting the notifications, not checking their email, maybe it's going to spam. So you can kind of take control of that and say, okay, why are these tasks not getting completed, and go in and find out who they're assigned to, so you can get those done.
Right. There's also a My Task view, so who you're logged in as could show just the views for those, your task as the logged in person.
Right. So the logged in user would be able to go in here and see just tasks that are assigned to themselves. That's right.
Right. And if the task is not completed by the due date, or one day before, the notifications can go out alerting the person over and over that this is important to get done, right?
Yes, exactly. And that goes back to our notifications, our workflow manager tool that we have in here. It gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of customizability for the program, where you can make the onboarding process what you need it to be. Like, maybe this process is similar to what you do, maybe not quite the same, maybe you have to make a few tweaks here or there. Part of what we offer with our tool is we can work with you to make sure it meets the needs of your organization. You're getting the notifications out that need to go out. You're getting the workflows done that need to get done. all that is part of what we would do to help you get up and running with this solution.
That's right, because a lot of times onboarding is very particular to the organization's workflows, how they onboard someone. So it has to be slightly customized anyway, or slightly configured for their particular purposes.
That's right.
Yeah, it's easy to do that.
That's absolutely right.
Back on the request manager page, you talked about forms, being able to change these forms or change the portal. Did you go into the forms designer?
No, I did not go into that. So I will show you how I made these forms. So we have a couple, going back to what we talked about earlier, we have a couple different types of forms here. We have this kind of generic request form, which is one way to get the information into the tool. We have this direct deposit authorization form, which is another way to get the information into the tool. But we can manage all that through our forms designer interface, which works for both the front end and the back end. So the front end being the portal, the back end being the staff area I showed you, where you can email and see the unassigned and assigned tasks. But you have the form, and then this is all pointing to one list, which is our request list. And there's going to be different forms on here. So you have a leave request form, direct deposit form, but it's all developed through the same tool where you can control and manipulate this in any way that you need. And one of the cool things about it is that if you wanted to add a new field to this form, it's really super simple to go ahead and do that. Let's say you want to add a title field to this form, you go ahead and add a title field. Just drag and drop, boom, done. You want to add new columns to the form, you can create new columns, and if they're not on the list already, you can create them. Once they're created, drag and drop them into where you want. You can break it out into sections. So right now I have this form broken out into a few different sections. And each one of those sections can have a different look and feel. So let's say this top section, maybe I want to have one column instead of two. So you can see, okay, that's going to look a little different. Maybe it looks better, maybe not. That's up to you, how you want that to look. So you have one column here, two columns there. So you can control that. You can also move where the label is, so you can make it look like that. And then really want to get fancy with it, you really want to really do some interesting stuff. There's this option to add, I'll do over here, we can add JavaScript, where you can have your, if you take it, you can run, you want to do something internally a little different, or even work through us. You can add JavaScript to the form, you can add custom CSS to the form. So there's a number of different things you can do to configure what that form looks like. And also what happens when it gets submitted. So you have a whole submit action option over here where you can link it to a custom action and have that do something. Maybe it notifies different people if it's a direct deposit form versus a different type of form.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. You can put a lot of functionality in, both in the layout, a lot of variability in the layout, as well as a lot of functionality you can add with the actions and advanced sections that you just pointed out. It's quite something. Now, as far as mobile, the portal is mobile friendly, responsive. So as you mentioned, you could do a signature on your mobile phone if you wanted, right there. But you can also see the whole form. You maybe shrink that down. You might see what it looks like.
Yeah, so let me just bring up this form as an example. And I obviously don't have the mobile interface directly on here, but what I can do is I can scrunch this browser down and show you the responsiveness of the form and how it changes as you go from a larger screen to a smaller screen. So ultimately, yeah, you're not gonna have room for the two columns, so it scrunches it down into one, and it's gonna do that for you automatically. Again, you have that authorization thing. So this is going to ultimately be what you would see if you were accessing this site through, or accessing this form through a mobile device.
That looks really good, actually. It's very easy to be able to enter in information, and down, if you scroll down, you could signature with your little finger if you needed to, right?
That's right.
Make an approval or whatever there.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty cool. That's good. That's good. And of course, when you design the form, you keep responsive in mind. So you might, align your columns or your layout the way that fits that. Now, I also see on Social Security number you have must be in XXX format. So the form has ability to control input like that also, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if I enter this in a format that was not what it was looking for, let me just Yeah, so he already tells me SSN should be in that format, including the hyphens. So I need to go in and include the hyphens and make sure that I have the right number of digits. And now it's going to be okay. But if I
Yeah,
put an extra
yeah,
one there, it's going to tell me.
that really
Yeah.
helps with correcting, not making user mistakes. The other thing is dynamic. You know, if you choose certain things in a drop list or one of the radio buttons, I don't think you have that in this form, but it could change what other fields or sections are displayed, right?
That's right. Yeah, I don't have that configured here for this demo, but yes, that's right.
So that makes
Yeah.
the forms very dynamic according to what you want to show the user based on the choices they made in previous fields, you know. So
Mhm.
that's pretty cool too. So this form, a lot going on this form to make it really useful for the end user. They can, in submitting, you create a variety of forms. They can see their form that they already submitted, which ones they've submitted, the status of them. Really saves on staff time by them being able to see their status of their requests in real time right there. Of course, the system could also send notifications out to them every time status changes or it's closed or the request is fulfilled. That all can be automated also. And the knowledge base or FAQs gives them ability to search.
Yeah, we didn't really go into that in great detail, but yeah, this is great because you have a search where users can come in and fill out, search for whatever they need. Payment. Was it add family member, for instance. So one of the things we're going to be doing also, it brought that up, but uh, one of the things we're going to be doing is adding this concept of natural language processing with AI capabilities, where you're going to be, it's going to be a much more complete search, search experience. So let's say I just searched for add family member, which is exactly what the text is in that article that came up below. But let's say the person says, I have a new son, nothing's going to come up. But what we're going to be adding to this is the ability to take that text, I have a new son, and say, okay, this maps to someone saying that they have a new family member. And that will bring it up. So that's one of the one of the things that's on our roadmap as far as making this a much more intelligent and much more user-friendly interface, a much better service for your employees who are coming in and looking for the information that they need.
Exactly. That plus already we have chat capabilities if you want to add a chat to it, a live chat. And in addition, we have a chat bot that is in its early stages, but we're working on it so that a person can come in and type in a question and then get a response 24/7 from the chat bot. Of course, that depends on having a certain amount of data behind the chat bot in order to train it or help it learn to respond in the appropriate way. But definitely we're going in that direction. In fact, we have an AI services webinar, Crow Canyon AI services webinar on November 14th, which is about 2 weeks or say Thursday, so 2 weeks from yesterday. And you can sign up for that at crowcanyon.com/webinars if you're interested in the AI services and the bots. And we'll go into that in more detail, show some natural language processing happening, show some chat bots. But like James is saying, this will be added to the HR portal, and hopefully you can see how the usefulness of this kind of direction that we're going in with the natural language processing, the chat bots, and the ways of user engagement that are more interactive in response to the user quickly without necessarily engaging staff for every routine question that comes up there. So yeah, good. Do you see any other questions? Ryan, do you see any questions? I think we're good on the questions here. Ryan was keeping an eye on questions. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like everything's been taken care of.
All right, good. Well, great presentation, James. That was really interesting. And I think the next step for anyone interested is to contact us for a trial, a demo, a live demo of any of this, or just talk to us about what your HR requirements are and what you'd like to see, what you're hoping to get off. We find many people are still using emails, spreadsheets, legacy applications, old programs that are not responsive, not cloud friendly, not user friendly enough. And it's very much the direction to maximize and use SharePoint and Office 365 for solutions such as HR, the HR request system or onboarding system. And it's just a matter of making that jump, getting the organization on board with it, On board for onboarding, all aboard for onboarding. How about that, huh? So anyway, so the thing is that making this change is, we find many people, at first there's a little reluctance or a little bit of, can it do it? Can it do this? But once they get on board and start using these applications, it's such a significant change in their organization and the operations that they start like, wow, how come we never did this earlier? So I encourage anyone to get on board. I keep saying that, all on board with our onboarding, and contact us for a demo. Contact us with questions, or we do trials and talk about what you need there done. So anybody, SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019, just emphasize that again, and Office 365, either HR solutions or any of our other solutions, we're glad to talk to you about it. Keep in touch with Crow Canyon Software. We have webinars coming up. We'll be at some of the shows, as I mentioned, and we'd love to hear from you and see what your needs are and what your requirements, and if we can meet them and help you use SharePoint and Office 365 to the max. So I think with that we can end, right, James? I mean, we're good, right? So
yeah, I think that's good. Thanks for everyone for joining, and like Scott was saying, reach out with any questions or live demo. We'd love to answer your questions in person, or at least on a one-on-one demo. So thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great day.
okay, thank you.